Welcome to the first or the third session on the Prout principles with Rajesh. Today we'll cover principles from 3 till 8, and I would just like to thank Rajesh for all this amazing work he's doing. These sessions are really useful for all of us to understand a little bit more about Prout. So without wanting to take too long, just would like to give the word to Rajesh, and so that we can start the session. Rajesh, you can go.
Namaskar to everyone. And before going for today's session, just have a quick recap of the last two sessions. For in first session, we discussed about is any change desired, is any change is required, or we are simply propagating growth. So on the basis of present economic scenario, the data, the uh, gap between rich and poor, the rising poverty, all these things were discussed, and it was established that the time has come for a change. We have to look beyond the existing system. We should think about something new, and that new is nothing else but progressive utilization theory, that is Prout. In second session, we discussed that Prout is in form of Sanskrit sutras or the principles. There are 16 sutras. Out of these 16 sutras, 1 to 8, they are the social laws of Prout. 9th, 10th, and 11th are the economic principles of the Prout. And the 12th to 16, as we all know, these 5 principles are the fundamental principles of growth. So we discussed first 2 sutras or the principles in the second session. That was Varna Pradhanta Chakradharaya. In the flow of social cycle, one class is always dominant. And what are the class? They are the Sudra, means the toiling class, followed by the Kshatriyan era or the Kshatriya age. They are the warrior class. Third one, or the followed by the Vipran era or the Vipran age. They are the intellectual people, intellectual class. And the fourth one is the Vaishyan age, Vaishyan class. That is the class of traders, merchants, or the capitalists. So this was the first sutra, and the second one was Chakra Kendre Sadvipra Chakra Niyantraka. In the nucleus of the social cycle, Sadvipras will control the cycle to liberate all. So Sadvipras, this is a very new concept to the world or the humanity, but we all are familiar with this term. We all are familiar with the concept of Sadvipra. It was broadly discussed in the second session. And this social cycle will be controlled by the Sadvipras. And whenever one class becomes exploitative or the exploiter, the Sudras will wage a war against them. And this war doesn't mean that the brutal fight or something, might be simply the Renaissance or the intellectual awareness can do the desired, the needful. So Sadvipras will lead the masses, lead the society for the change, so the exploitative class should be dethroned and the new class will automatically take place. So these two were discussed. In today's session, we are going to discuss the remaining 6 sutras or principles of or the social laws of the Prout. So let's begin today's session with the third session with the third principle, that is Shakti Sampaten Chakra Gati Vardhanam Kranti. Evolution is the acceleration of speed of the social cycle by the application of force. In coming sutras, some words will pop up like use of force, use of tremendous force, but it doesn't mean that the propounder of Prout philosophy propagates about the uses of force. He has given the philosophy. These are the probable scenarios, situations which can occur in the social cycle. And when we will discuss, or I will take the examples, it will make things clear that it's not the Prout philosophy's propounder is propagating about the uses of force. Rather, in the social cycle, it is bound to happen, or it is bound to take place. So the third sutra says, evolution is the acceleration of speed of the social cycle by the application of force. And what does it mean? That in the first sutra we discussed that society has a natural flow. It's moving from one class to another class, from Sudra era or the toiling era to the warrior class era, then followed by the Vipran or the intellectual era, then it's the Vaishyan era or the traders or the capitalists. So in this way, it's a natural, normal phenomenon which is going on. It's an ongoing process. But when a situation occurs or demands, people are compelled to use force. In that case, this natural or normal flow of the social cycle will not be disturbed, but the process of change will be accelerated. Suppose if from one era to another era, it was supposed to, it will take some 50 years. But if we are compelled to use the force, might be it will happen in 25 years. The age will change from X to Y into 25 years. In natural process, it was 50 years. And after the use of force, it its speed has been accelerated. The social cycle's speed has been accelerated, and it just took 25 years to from one era to another era. So this is the third sutra says. And what is the basic difference between the natural flow and in this use of force? It's very simple, as I gave the example that in natural flow, it will take the normal natural time which is supposed to be taken. As I said, it might be 100 years or 50 years, but after the use of force, the time span will be minimized. And from X era to, we will move to X era to Y era, the successive era, whichever. If we are in warrior class age, then we will move to the intellectual class age. If we are into the intellectual age, after the use of force, we will move to the traders or the capitalists era. So this is the third sutra says. Fourth one is Tivra Shakti Sampaten Gati Vardhanam Viplava. Revolution is the acceleration of speed of social cycle by the use of tremendous force. So when situation demands, or the situation occurs, or the situation compels, people use tremendous force to uproot or dethrone the exploitative class, the exploiters class. And in natural flow, when the Kshatriya era or the warrior era will be replaced, it will be replaced by the Vipran or the intellectual age. So what is the basic difference between the third sutra and the fourth sutra? Because both says the acceleration of the speed of the social cycle by the use of force. So what's the basic difference between both the sutras or the principles? The basic difference between both the principles are the quantum of force. In third one, in the evolution, the force which will be utilized, it will be lesser, it will be minimal. But in the fourth one, which is revolution, in this in the revolution, the quantum of force will be tremendous, might be brutal. And another difference is the time span. In natural flow, it will take its natural time. But when we will use the minimal or the lesser force, the time span will be again more than the revolution part. And in revolution, when we will use the tremendous force or the brutal force, the time span will be more minimized. As I said, natural flow, it will take 50 years. In the uses of force, lesser or minimal, it might take 25 years. And when the use of force is brutal, tremendous, it might can happen in 5 months or the 5 years. So the basic difference between third and fourth, the quantum of force and the time span. So I think it's time for an example to make the things more clear. And it will again establish that this is not the use of force is not the idea of propounder of the Prout philosophy. Rather, it is bound to happen. It is taking place in the social cycle. So let's come back to the 18th century in Europe, in France. It was time for the French Revolution. French Revolution lasted for 10 years, 1789 to 1799. 10 years, 89 to 99. It was a normal process. It was, a word is used, revolution, but it took 10 years. If we apply the third principle, application of force, might this French Revolution has concluded in 5 years. What the 10 years it has taken, if the force has been utilized, it might have been concluded in 5 years. And if the brutal or tremendous force has been used during the French Revolution, it might have concluded in 5 months, 6 months, or in a year. So this is the application of force. And as I said, in the social cycle, things are bound to happen. It will take place. And if we consider the French Revolution or the era of French Revolution as the era of warrior class, because at that time, France was ruled by King Louis XVI. He was a monarch, he was a dictator, he was exploiter. So this is symbolic to the warrior class era. And after French Revolution, what happened? Democracy took place. The first democratic government took place in France, in Europe. That was the first democratic government. So, and democracy is by and large a representation of the intellectual class. So after the Kshatriya era or the Kshatriya age or the warrior age, French Revolution took place, and it was the France moved from warrior class to the intellectual class. I think it's clear to everyone right now. And if I take an example of this brutal or the tremendous force, again, the epicenter is Europe and America. It's the period of World War II, 1939 to 1945, 6 years, the World War II. And when the World War II came to a sudden stop when on 6th of August 1945, Hiroshima was bombed with the nuclear bombs, and on the 9th of August 1945, Nagasaki was bombed by the nuclear bomb, and the World War II came to a sudden halt. Suddenly it's stopped. So this is the use of the brutal force that stopped the war. And if the then emperor of Japan, that is King Hirohito, is a representation of warrior class, after the World War II, Japan also adopted the democracy, which is the representation of the intellectual era. So with these two examples, we can conclude, or rather we can differentiate between the third sutra and the fourth sutra. And again, I'm saying use of force is not the doctrine of the Prout propounder. In the flow of social cycle, things will take place. Our situation will compel to use the uses of force, minimum force, or the brutal force. Let me take another hypothetical example. Tomorrow, the Russia and Ukraine conflict will complete the 2 months tomorrow. It is started on 24th of February. Today is 59th day. Tomorrow will be the 60th day. So 2 months will be completed for Russia-Ukraine conflict. And it's going on. It's an ongoing process. Mariupol has been captured by Russia. Ukraine is resisting like anything. Even that was not envisioned by the generals of Russia or the Vladimir Putin. But just think, a nuclear bomb either at Kyiv or at Moscow, the conflict will come to an abrupt end. I'm not propagating the use of this nuclear bomb, but I'm just from the World War II, I'm taking a cue and just I'm saying, if either Kyiv is bombarded or the Moscow, it will come to a halt. So the use of force is a situational thing. It's compelled to take place. It is not a doctrine of we people or the Prout propounder. I think it's clear for now, and third and fourth. So now I will move toward the fifth one. Fifth one is Shakti Sampaten Viparit Dharayam Vikranti. What is it? It says that counter evolution is the application of force to turn the social cycle into reverse direction. I'm repeating it. Counter evolution. Third was evolution. Fifth is counter evolution. Counter evolution is the application of force to turn the social cycle into reverse direction or the backward direction. What is it? Suppose in the natural flow or in the normal course of social cycle, it goes from toiling class to warrior class to intellectual class to traders or the capitalist era. But suppose the intellectual class becomes exploiters and the warrior class people lead a revolution against this weapon era, and as per natural flow, society should, or the social cycle should move from Vipran era, intellectual era to the Vaishyan era or the trader class. But when the warrior class people took the lead, the flow or the social cycle reversed to the backward from intellectual era to the warrior class era. And here again, the use of force is there. Warrior class people use the force against intellectuals, and they compelled them to dethrone or to uproot, and it was reversed back to the warrior class. But Prout propounder says that it will not last for long. Even if it happens, the Kshatriyan age or the warrior age will be short lived, and as per the natural flow, either the society or the social cycle will move to again to the intellectual era, or as per the natural course, because it was primarily the intellectuals those who were leading the society, they became the exploiters. So as per natural flow, it should go to the traders era or the capitalist era, but it reversed back to the warrior class. So Sri PR Sarkar says that it will short lived, and after a short span of time, this warrior class era will cease to exist. Either it will go to the intellectual class or to the traders class. And again, here the use of force will be minimal or lesser, and as the force will be lesser, it will take a bit more time to reverse the social cycle. Sixth one is तीव्र शक्ति संपातेन विपरीत धारायाम प्रति विप्लव. Fourth one was revolution. Here it's counter revolution. Counter revolution is the application of tremendous force to reverse the social cycle, reverse the social cycle into the reverse direction. Counter revolution is the application of force to turn the social cycle into the reverse direction. The same thing which happened in the fifth one, from the intellectual class, it will reverse back to the preceding class, not to the successive, which is the natural flow. It will reverse back to the preceding age. And here the force will be more lethal, brutal, or the tremendous. And as the force will be maximum or the tremendous, the time span will be lesser than the previous one. But again, Prout propounder says that it will be more short-lived than the counter-revolution, the previous one. If in counter-revolution, suppose from intellectual era, application of force was applied, it went back to the warrior class era, and it lived for 25 years or 50 years. But when this counter revolution will take place, more force will be applied, and rather than for 50 years, it might can lived for 20, 25 years or 15 years, because he categorically says that it will be more short lived than the counter evolution. Again, and the basic difference between both the principles are that the quantum of force in counter evolution, the force will be minimal or the lesser. In the counter revolution, force will be brutal or the tremendous, and the basic difference of that time span. That will take, counter revolution will take more time, but it will short lived. In tremendous force, change will happen in a short span of time, but the era which will come, that also will be short lived. That is not going to last as per its natural flow or natural time frame. So let me give an example, or take me an example. As the Russia-Ukraine conflict is going on, suppose the situation further deteriorates, and as I said, any party compelled to take some more harsh steps. For example, just to establish United States hegemony over world. United States drops a nuclear bomb at Russia. Even it's hypothetical because they are not in a position to start World War III, but it's hypothetical. So what will happen? What will be the chain reaction? The chain reaction will be the share markets across globe will be collapse. It will compel the global share markets, whether it's Dow Jones at United States or the Sensex in India or the Nikkei in Japan or everywhere, the share markets will collapse. And when the share market will collapse, there will be a economic anarchy. So when Sri Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar says the use of force doesn't mean that the physical force only. Even we all can visualize that what will happen after the collapse of the share markets of entire globe. There will be economic crisis, there will be recession, there will be economic anarchy across globe. So after this is also a kind of force, tremendous force, because it will impact every government, it will impact every country, it will impact every individual on planet Earth. So, and after this collapse of share markets, suppose intellectuals came to the rescue. They devise some ideas like we, the Proutists, have an opportunity to show them the path. We, the intellectuals, give them the new way. And in this way, I'm not saying that Prout is going to establish, but I'm just indicating towards the intellectual class. So if the intellectual class guides the governments across globe to control the economy, to revive the economy, to again make it prosperous and flourish. So if the intellectuals are there to guide us, what will happen? Now we are living in the capitalistic era. It will go back to the intellectual era. This is the counter revolution. But if situation compels, even no intellectuals or no new ideas, nothing is there to control this economic anarchy across globe, the warrior class people come forward. They wage a war against the existing politicians, the capitalists. This will lead to a establishment of warrior class. This is revolution. In the same scenario, in the collapse of share markets, if it is guided by, leaded by the intellectual class, it is counter revolution. We will go in reverse direction. But if the warrior class come to the rescue, they take the lead, they take it to come out from this mess. So it is the going to establish the warrior class. So this is revolution. So I hope that it's a bit clear to everyone. Now I'm moving towards the seventh principle, and that is Purna Vartanen Parikranti. The complete rotation of a social cycle of the social cycle is peripheric evolution. As we know, which we discussed in first principle, social cycle has its a natural normal flow, which is from Sudra age of a toiling class, to the Kshatriya age, the age of warrior class, followed by the intellectual era, and after the intellectual era, it is the era of or the age of the Vaishyans or the capitalists or the trader people. And after the extreme exploitation of the capitalist class, other classes' life becomes like a toiling class people. And what is happening? Even the intellectuals are at the mercy of the traders or the capitalists. So after the extreme exploitation in the Vaishyan era, there will be Sudra Revolution. This Sudra Revolution will be led by the courageous people, those who are not afraid of anything. They will lead the society, they will lead this revolution, which will lead towards from the Vaishyan era to after Vaishyan era, it's a Sudra revolution followed by the warrior class is. So it's a complete rotation from the toiling class to warrior class to intellectuals to the capitalists, then the Sudra revolution, and after the Sudra revolution, it's warrior class. So it's a one complete cycle. This one complete cycle of the social cycle is peripheric evolution. It's clear. And the last social law, eighth principle, is Vachitriyam prakrit dharma samanam na bhavishyati. Diversity is the law of nature. No identical things can ever be happened. There is nothing like two things are similar in everything in terms of electrons, protons, neutrons, and the thought process, in the body language, in the physical structure, color combination, complexions, everything never be identical. There will be some kind of diversity will be there, and this diversity is natural. Making things identical by adopting some scientific methodology like IVF or something, making two things identical or something, that is not natural. Diversity is natural. As we all know, even two atoms are not identical. They vary in protons or something, electrons or something. If there are twins or the triplets, they might physically look alike. Their physical appearance might be same, but their food habits will vary. Their choice of subjects may vary. Their choice of colors will vary. Their choice of movies or the games, that will also vary. So even they born almost on identical time of difference of 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, they look like similar, but they are not similar. So this diversity, we have to accept that the nature produces, and what is nature? That supreme operative principle. It produces not the identical things, but the diverse things. And how this diversity is, we have to accept this diversity. We can't discriminate on the basis of color, complexion, nationality, language, anything. We have to accept that we are part of the same progenitor, we are part of the same family. Even due to the climate conditions, our complexion is different. In Africa, our brothers have a black complexion. In India, we are something called brown. In Europe, people are fair complexion, but that doesn't make a difference. It's a diversity of the climate. So this is natural. This is the eighth law, eighth principle. And here I conclude all the eight principles of the social law.
So yeah, thank you everyone for coming.
Yes.
It was a lovely session. Um, and yeah, just to remind everyone that this program was organized by Proutist Universal, and we have different um, different programs and different things that we are doing. So the Prout convention will happen on the from the 20th to the 24th. Sorry, from the 19th to the 24th of July. So you are all welcome to attend. It will be in Denmark, but also online, so everybody around the world can attend. We will also record it for those that cannot do make it due to time difference. We also have a website where we publish content regularly, very interesting articles. And if you're interested in contributing, please contact me. So the website is prout.info, and we have a Facebook account, a Twitter account, all of those, and we also have a Telegram account. So in all of those channels we publish very interesting and I feel important content. So please check it out. And we also have a YouTube channel. We are working on publishing videos regularly. We also have a newsletter. So we have many ways of contacting people, and if you're interested in getting to know them, just on the website you'll see all of them basically. So yeah, thank you very much again for coming. I hope you have a beautiful weekend and hope to see you soon.